Hello World of Tanks Blitzers, this is StudMuffin1986. Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, but I do want to get back into this. Life just a bit crazy, just with everything going on, but let's just dive in right here. We've got the E25 that's now in the shop. I've actually had this tank for some time, and I must say it is a little bit of a tricky tank to play with, but for me personally, I do enjoy playing with this tank. I love some of the things that really stand out to me about it is I really do like the maneuverability of it. It is a pretty quick tank. I mean, you can really fly around the map in this thing. I also loved how just like sloped the armor is, how low to the ground it is. Even though it doesn't have a lot of armor, if you can just get yourself to peek up a little bit on a slope, you can end up bouncing some of those rounds just because your armor does have that really good slope to it. But I mean, this thing can just really be a pest on the battlefield. I mean, you can really have some good games with this thing or really bad games with this thing. Just some of the things that I've really noticed when trying to play with the E25 is, like I said, it's not a real easy tank to play with in my opinion. There are some things, just because of your weak armor, you do have to be a bit careful with. Like I said, I do love the speed. I mean, you could just see this thing flying around the map, and it's reload, it's really high rate of fire, just makes it a lot of fun. You can see right there, you do need to be a little careful because any light tanks or fast tanks flanking you can end up getting around you. But just look at this. I mean, so low to the ground. Just if I would have gotten hit by this SU-152, I would have it would have been over. But this is just so funny. So I'm trying to use my maneuverability to get around this thing. I mean, the hilarious thing is you can end up circling of deathing other TDs, which is just so funny. And here I am, I'm just hanging on to dear life. He bounces another round. That is the one thing that is also really funny about the E25, is that if you get up right in other enemies' faces, it can be so trollish. Just because of how low to the ground it is, I just get utterly wasted here. There was really nothing else I can do. But I've gotten right up against other tanks, and they just don't have the gun depression to hit me. They'll try like everything to get their cannon down to shoot me, but just because I'm so low to the ground and they take shots at me, rounds will just bounce off. And sometimes it's really funny, but it can be really dangerous getting that close to tanks as well too, especially if they have friends around them. So here's just another game. This was actually just a replay, but I mean, really, you can tell, like, the spotting of this thing or the view range isn't necessarily the best. I mean, you are a TD, you're not a medium or light tank that's meant for spotting enemies. But the funny thing is that this tank is so fast and maneuverable that it's even faster than a lot of the light and medium tanks in the game. I mean, like I had already mentioned, like, you can really fly around the map. And the one thing is that if you're going to purchase this tank, the real way to do it is try to engage distracted enemies that are focused on someone else, have taken shots. You can just really get in there and just unload your rate of fire and your rounds on them, and you can end up depleting an enemy pretty fast of their HP. Now, I mean, even this, you can see I'm a little angled on a hill, but I mean, I can't really deflect. This thing doesn't really have any armor. You can see just how much I'm struggling a little bit here. But I'm really trying to just be very aware of the map and what's going on. You can see I'm trying to just run around, more so just being a big pest, just being like the biggest pain in the butt to the enemy on the battlefield. I'll just switch around, go from enemy to enemy, just looking for someone distracted, and then just hone in on them. I am so glad I did not get pounded by that smasher, because that would have been definitely the enemy. So yeah, I'm just going from target to target, just looking for distracted enemies. Just really, I'm still being a support, not necessarily like camping, but really trying to use my maneuverability, just get in there to help my team. This thing, I mean, it really can be a fun tank, but like I said, I mean, I've even had some pretty rough rounds in this thing. And you just have to be very aware of your surroundings, and I mean, you can do really good with this. So yeah, I mean, just some of the games with the E25, just to help you get a feel for what the tank is. I know there's a lot of videos on YouTube about it. You can easily just go in and look at the stats, but just really to come in here and just give you a feel. Like, I am being a little aggressive compared to some TDs on how maybe some might play TDs, but I don't know, this is just how I like playing. It's just awesome. The camo rating is just so good. Like, just look at that. Came up right up on a medium tank, was able to take a shot without even getting detected here in this center point of the map, where a lot of tanks you just can't even do that with. So that's another thing I really do like about the E25, is it has a great camo rating. And the thing is just, it's so small too that sometimes it can even be hard to hit. So yeah, just being very aware of the map, where your enemies are, focusing on distracted targets, and then just going in and just unloading your cannon on them, and then just trying to just keep going around and just being a good support to your teammates. You never ever want to rely on your armor in this thing. It's not a good idea. It does have decent penetration. I wouldn't say it's the best. I would highly recommend carrying the gold rounds on you, just because tanks that are a higher tier than you are going to have a little bit more of a hard time penetrating, and that's where those gold rounds are going to come in, those heat rounds. So I'm just going in here, I'm just flying in. I just love how maneuverable this thing is, and I just love being able to pop shots off from this third person view, and just being able to come up right on the enemy, help out your teammates, supporting them. And this is really what it's all about. I mean, this is kind of the way that I've noticed has really been the most effective way. And this, I just totally lose my internet connection. I don't know what happened. My internet just ended up going right through the roof, and I just come back to the game and I'm utterly destroyed. I honestly have no idea what happened. It totally looks like I just went like Mach 3 into this wall, and then it was just game over for me. So not necessarily sure what happened there, but yeah, it's in the store right now. 6,000 gold, or 7,500 with the camo that comes with it and everything else. But yeah, I mean, in terms of getting this tank, if you are more of a noobish player, this tank can be a little difficult to play with. The other thing is that you do have to get used to in playing this tank is just how low to the ground it is. I mean, with a lot of other tanks you play with, when you're coming up like around hills and approaching enemies, you have kind of an idea of what you can look over and get shots. But this thing is so low to the ground that sometimes I forget that I can't even quite see over certain hills and stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to get some eyes on the enemy. I'm trying to help my team, trying to follow them. I'm not completely going solo. I'm always looking to see, okay, I've got teammates behind me, I've got escape routes, I can back up if needs be. I'm trying to come up, just from where the bush areas are, but really just trying to fly in and get in there. We see that the enemy is capturing the base, just trying to get to a really good position where we can just start taking shots on the enemy. This is where it gets a little dangerous because once again, I don't have a lot of armor. I'm trying to take some blind shots into where the base is. Definitely, okay, just see a KV2 here. And I mean, this is really good because the thing is from a distance, when you have targets to shoot at, you can take shots at them without even being detected. If you're that distance away, it is super nice. I mean, you can really rain down the fire. And here I am, I'm just trying to maneuver my way through, just trying to get any shots I possibly can. My team is doing an awesome job. And I mean, it really is just great. But I don't ever want to get myself in a situation where I'm having to rely on my armor. So I see this T29 and this KV-1S coming up around the side, and I've got to plan ahead. I've got to back up and utilize the hill. I'm a little too close here, and so I'm trying to back up. At that distance, you will get detected. And just using a little bit of this hill right here, and I mean, like you can even see here, I still get detected. So, I mean, you're not like completely invisible, but I mean, if you do have that distance, this thing does have what feels like better camo than a lot of other tanks in the game. So, I just spotted the T29 there, trying to stay really low to the ground, back up, using this bush here in front of me to keep my camo. And just unload on this T29. The rate of fire of this tank, the accuracy is pretty good. Here I get detected, takes a shot at me. But all in all, I mean, not just to state the obvious of what's happening in these games, but this tank can really be a fun tank. On a scale of 1 to 10, on 1 just being completely easy, noob friendly, to 10 being expert, I would give this thing probably more like an 8. Like you definitely have to know what you're doing. I mean, the nice thing is you are a tank destroyer. You can position yourself in areas where TDs can typically be. But yeah, I mean, you do look at this. I mean, most tanks you come to in that area, you can at least see over that hill line. With this thing, I can't even see. But this is great. I see the SU. He doesn't even see me. He just blind fires. Probably thinking that there would have been a taller tank there and taking a shot where maybe some tank would have been, but since I'm so low, just totally missed. I mean, the shell just went right over me. So here's the thing. Once again, the enemies are closing in over that bridge. I've got to get out of there. I cannot be relying on any places where I'm gonna need my armor. So just trying to really be a pain here to the enemy. I've got a higher DPM than some of these tanks I'm facing, so I'm using that to my advantage. Trying to keep an eye, going to my third person view to just see where my enemies are. And just making sure that, you know, I'm keeping somewhat of a barrier distance. Trying to see if I can sneak any kind of shots I can with this tank. But I mean, the thing is you've really got to use your speed. The nice thing is about this tank that makes it a bit unique for a tank destroyer, like I said, with its maneuverability, is you can really zoom around the map in this thing and just get in position to help your team and be just so effective. That's one of the things, like, you know, when you're an enemy and you know there's an enemy, or you know when there's a E25 that you're up against, and you start getting hit by these little, just like this low alpha damage, and this like repeatedly over and over again, you know if you're in the open, you can just get utterly screwed. And the other thing is, that's really nice, and I haven't quite done it yet, but if you can come up on an enemy and track them, just focus on the tracks, you can really mess a tank up. So it is a pretty fun tank. I mean, this thing does come out in the stores every once in a while. I wouldn't say it's super rare, but I would say if you're a good player, this tank can be worth it. It's a little tricky to play just because it almost has kind of that light tank feel where it's so fast and maneuverable, Hope you enjoyed the video and that it'll help you make a decision.